We have a couple of things. Our snow removal equipment building is a sizable project, and it's underway. They're working hard to get out of the ground, they call it, so that they can be on a hard surface by the time the weather changes. And if they can get that far along, then they can work all the way through the winter. And about a year from now, we should be moving into that building. It'll have several things that'll be unique to a snow removal equipment building. We'll be able to store sand. We don't use sand a lot, but if you need it, it has to be clean and dry and meet specifications. There'll be maintenance space so that you can repair the equipment. There'll be some lifts and jacks so that it'll be pretty much self-contained, because a lot of this equipment is really big to take over the roads. And the several bays, and one of them is a wash bay, so it'll be a full-service facility for us. You know, we don't get a lot of snow. But it only takes one storm to have a disaster. So we get the equipment. Some of that is federally fundable with grants. And the snow equipment removal building is also, because you want to protect those major investments. But even if we only get one storm, we've got to handle it well to keep things safe. The FAA goal, or their criteria, is to be able to clear a runway within 30 minutes. And we're getting closer and closer to that all the time. As we get more equipment, we'll completely get there. But it used to take us 4 or 5 hours, and you know, that just didn't meet the needs. But with the new equipment and more equipment to come, we will get to that length of closure. Yeah, we're looking out several years for that, probably a decade before it'd be built. But eventually we need a parallel runway. One for capacity, but two for redundancy. Right now, if we have a minor mishap out there, and I'm not talking a disaster, but perhaps a gear-up landing on a light aircraft, it can close us for 2 or 3 hours while you get all of the investigation, the permission to remove the aircraft. And if you have a parallel runway, you just shift to the other runway. Same for snow removal. If you get a big storm, you can plow one, and then operate on it, and then plow the other one, and you can alternate back and forth and pretty much stay open 100%. At this point now, we've kind of decided where it needs to go. We've met the FAA's planning criteria. We'll be buying some land that we need over the next few years. There'll be some environmental mitigation, because we're going to have to move a creek a little bit, and all of those things take time and dollars, but give it about a decade and that runway ought to be operational. The project that we're on right now, the solar project, and we've been really excited about the way this project's going. It's on time and on budget, but it'll make a zero carbon footprint for all of our parking, and that's about 16 acres, which means it will be generating enough power to totally handle that lot. Now, that doesn't mean that we'll handle it all the time. There will be times when we sell power to the grid, and there will be times when we take power from the grid, but when you net it all out, we'll be generating more power than we use. This is actually phase 3, and phase 3 has 2 parts. One is additional solar, and that's coming along really well. But the other part is we've converted all of the area lighting from conventional to LED lighting, which is very effective, and that's part of what helps us get to the zero carbon footprint. And this is with some tremendous help from the Blue Sky program through Pacific Power, and also the Energy Trust on the LED lighting. So the other thing is kind of a byproduct for us, but it's also been really good is when we were building the terminal, we eliminated some things to stay in budget and stay on time, and part of what we eliminated was canopies. Well, now that we have these ground-mounted structures to hold the solar panels, they can also function as canopies, and we have people coming in from the parking lot protected more from the weather. So that's been important to us too. But and the dollars you save on power. And of course, this is a small portion of the airport, but we're about 900 acres. We do a lot of power. Portland said a couple of things about how they planned on handling it, and we do not necessarily concur with their method. First, I need to say that the airport receives federal grants, and because we receive federal grants, we make some federal commitments. And one of the federal commitments is to be a drug-free workplace. And by federal definition, marijuana is still illegal, so it's illegal at the airport and going through the airport. Now that gets complicated a little bit because TSA's purpose is to find and make sure weapons don't get aboard an aircraft, and they're not charged with handling drugs. But if they find drugs, they do notify the local law enforcement agency of the airport, which is Medford PD. We have an agreement with them. And so Medford Police Department decides what they will do when drugs are found. And they follow their policies, understanding the policies that we have as well. So they don't always prosecute, but they can. The drugs don't flow through the airport. If they're caught, they're at least taken and destroyed. So it's not a good place to bring your drugs.